The stream is live stream.
Now I'm here.
Do we have to do the countdown?
No, I didn't do it today.
We're just here. Oh, this is good. I like it. Mark Maron does that where he just starts the podcast in the middle of the conversation, like you're already
We're
talking.
just here. Welcome.
Exactly. I think it's, that's the point, right? Oh yeah, I want to start with this. This is okay. Does everybody, can you see this? All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do t-shirts, right? Okay. Do you know who that is?
Oh, I love it.
This is Bluto. There's a character called Bluto from the Jim Henson movie Labyrinth. And it's a character I very much have affinity for. This is a bootleg shirt, so nobody sue me, but he's surrounded by roses. And the point of this character is he looks like a beast, he looks like a monster. And the first time she sees him, Jennifer Connelly, she's scared of him. But she's been assured that things in the labyrinth are not always what they seem. And so she takes a chance and she decides to save him. And he turns out to be a gentle giant and a sweetheart. And he loves her and he protects her and he takes care of her. Plus, he sings to the rocks.
Oh.
He sings to rocks and the rocks come to their aid in the movie. I love this movie, obviously. But
okay, wait, it's called Labyrinth?
Labyrinth, David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly. Jim Henson, remember Jim Henson? He did the Muppet Show. And he was one of the creators of Sesame Street. Yeah, it is a Muppet. He is technically a Muppet, yeah. And he made two really, really fantastic films outside of the Muppet Show movies. One called The Dark Crystal, which is all puppets. It's all puppets, the entire film. There's not a single live person in it. And then he made Labyrinth with David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly. And a whole lot of The Power of Hoodoo. You do what? Remind me of the babe. I saw my baby crying hard as babe could cry. And when I was like, whatever, like 12, like, I don't know, 11, 12 around there, something like that, David Bowie in that movie in particular was just like the coolest thing in the world. I love that movie. Love that movie. David Bowie is and his codpiece. No, honestly, David Bowie is one of the few things that lives up to the hype.
For sure.
For sure.
How was your week?
Oh, I don't know. Let me start with, this apartment, this little hellhole of an apartment, my utility closet.
Yeah.
So there's this been ongoing leak that comes and goes, been going on the whole time I've been living here. And they don't really know, I don't think, and they won't tell me what it is. And they keep kind of like half-assing it. And so it goes away and it comes and goes. And then it went away for a long time. And then it just started up one day for I don't know where it comes from. I don't know what changes. I have this like, why is this time different than all the others? Yeah. Anyway, so the ceiling eventually just collapsed a couple weeks ago. And it's all contained in this one little like coat closet. Not all of it. It comes out, but the part that leaves the coat closet, and most of the damage is in the coat closet. Anyway, and so the ceiling just in the coat closet collapses. And so they send a guy in to patch up the ceiling. The next morning it starts leaking again. So I get 2 more days of leak on top of the new patchwork. So the whole apartment just smells like a sauna right now.
Oh, no.
On top of the heat and humidity. It's so much fun.
Last week after we hung up, it was thunder and lightning there, huh?
Oh, yeah. And me and Raven keep getting caught in the rain. It's so much fun because when we first got her, she was really afraid of the rain. She really didn't like the rain. And now she's like much more fun and she has much more fun with it now. She really didn't like water at all. She's not quite so.
It looks so pretty. My friend sent me a video of the lightning. I was like, dude, New York City in a storm is really something.
You see some amazing lightning storms out here. Yeah, that's true. Even just walking around, when we go there's a baseball field over there and you can see where the storm is over, like at Coney Island. And it's not that far away. And from this vantage, you can see all the way to where the storm is. It's really cool.
So you've been getting drift on all week or what?
Say what?
You've been getting drift on in your apartment?
No, it's just in the closet. So like we have it kind of like, there's nothing in there, but there's some bags of old laundry. There's some there's some just junk in there, but no, it's just, like since I've moved in here, if it isn't one thing, it's another. There was a sinkhole in the bathroom. The kitchen sink came away from the wall and they had to fix that. And even that isn't like, really fixed. It's just they just kind of reattached the pipings, but the cupboards, the section with the counter and the cupboards, that's coming off the wall. So that's going to keep pulling the pipes off the wall no matter what. The sinkhole in the bathroom was fine.
What's that about? What's a sinkhole in the bathroom?
It's an old building, right? And the bathroom has like all these little original tiles, these little tiny little octagon shaped tiles. So it's like real actual little tiny tiles that somebody actually meticulously put pieced together there. And so I don't know, one day it just fell through and it broke through, and he just slapped some cement in the hole and went on his day. I don't know. I have a different basis of comparison. Like working at the Shangri-La, this apartment would not have been considered rent ready to begin with. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if I was renting, I wouldn't have moved somebody in here. But they have, I don't know. I don't know if it's different because of gentrification or because I'm a scattered site, because I'm on disability. I don't know if it's different because, and it's a weird thing because of gentrification, there's like the old tenants and new tenants, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the old tenants have been trying to sue the building because the old tenants aren't getting any fucking maintenance done. All the maintenance is going to the new tenants who pay 3-4 times as much for the same apartments, right? And I get kind of stuck in this like middle space where I am neither I'm not one of these new people that has money, but I also kind of but I don't get any maintenance.
But it's like subsidized, right?
Say what?
It's subsidized.
Subsidized, yeah, I'm subsidized.
Yeah, that's good. But they should pay attention to you and not be assholes.
Again, they only pay attention to who they really have to, and it is kind of a thankless, never-ending job. Maintenance, maintenance is one of those jobs just keeps going forever. So I sympathize with the constant having to fix things all the time. And whatever it is, there's like 4 buildings on this block, and I'm sure they have other buildings in the neighborhood too. But just this block is 4 great big buildings. So it's a lot to deal with, and I appreciate and I sympathize, but I don't know. I don't know how to fight. I don't know how to advocate. I don't know how to advocate for myself. I have a problem.
Yeah, that's the challenging part. I'm glad you're on disability though. That can be really hard to get.
Took years.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that really frustrates me in the political conversations when they try to pretend this stuff is so easy. Like any fucking buddy can walk into any government building and just give me something. It's like, it's not how it works. No. You have to prove it. You have to prove it. You have to prove it and then prove it again. And it's a real pain in the ass, and it takes fucking years. It takes years. And it's ridiculous.
Psychotropic medications. Like in the Church of Scientology, we thought that doctors were just like handing these things out like candy. Like, no, it's really hard. If you need ADHD medication or anxiety medication, so many doctors do not want to prescribe those types of things.
Well, in the 90s, there was a lot of Prozac going around. Remember the Prozac Nation and all that?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really what Scientology was poking at, was pointing at and calling it,
But I thought they were just handing them out like NBD, which maybe in the 90s they were.
I think they were a little more. I think there was more Prozac and Ritalin. They tried to put me on something when I was a kid, and my mother went to court and fought it on religious grounds and religious belief basis. Yeah, yeah. And instead, then I had to do an hour every week with a child psychiatrist in whatever, some little playroom at the end of the hall.
Was that from LeConte?
No, this is elementary school. This is Cherimoya.
Wow.
Goes back that far.
How did it go?
I don't know. What's funny about it is what I remember about it was just feeling like a weirdo because I was called out of class for an hour. They came to the door and like, Daniel Mustard, you know what I mean? Like just that being weird in front of other children is difficult. And I was already so weird in so many ways. And I don't really even remember these sessions. I remember playing games. I remember playing Connect 4 and stuff like that. I have no idea if we ever got to whatever it was that was the purpose of that process, which has always left me kind of like, I feel that way about a lot of stuff sometimes. Like, what was the purpose of this? Well, I don't know what we were doing. Maybe if somebody had told me what we were doing, I could have gotten there, but I don't think we ever got there, to be honest. I I would be curious to know.
It's not like normal for a Scientologist to let their child go see a psychiatrist at all, ever.
Well, this was instead of putting me on stimulants, or not stimulants, on whatever the answer.
Yeah, on stimulants.
You know, the ADHD before it was diagnosed as such. We didn't have that terminology in 1975 or whatever it was. Yeah. Well, we did, but we didn't know it. I didn't know it. It wasn't common knowledge. It wasn't a common thing. The way people like in the 90s, that's all people were talking about was mood and anxiety, all this stuff we talk about much more now. And then I think because of a lot of the PTSD that we're seeing in returning soldiers, it's become an even more commonly understood conversation. But back then it was not. And yeah, I was always kind of like, Dan takes up too much of my time in the classroom. I was always that kid. And I don't know, because I was bored and anxious.
I have ADHD, and I'm putting together a 10-page literature review right now, and I have to use 10 research articles and synthesize them. And let me tell you,
you have to synthesize. Wait, what? I didn't hear what you said.
Synthesize 10 research articles.
Synthesize? What do you mean synthesize?
Like, this is the hard part, because you don't want to change the wording. Like, my first thing is to pull quotes from it, but it's supposed to be like me making a story out of how I'm learning these research. Because I picked one topic, and that's gang involved homeless youth and mental health outcomes.
Yeah.
And then
in Los Angeles.
There, in Los Angeles is where they did the study.
Yeah.
So, but then from there, I have to find 10 more articles about similar topics, and then basically tell a story over 10 pages. And it's like,
you have to
on earth
derive the story from those studies.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Oh.
Yeah. So I have to tell a story, and it's really something else.
Huh.
Yeah. I'm wondering why I'm in grad school at all.
Yeah. Right. It's a kid thing. I'm so pissed. Like, I dropped out of high school. It still pisses me off, because by the time I got to high school, I didn't think it mattered. It was so drilled into my head that education, what does that matter? Yeah. And whether it was because I was too smart for my own good, or I was just supposed to I don't know what they thought I was going to do. But they didn't put much thought into it. I'll say that much. My mother was very good at throwing me into the end of the pool, at the deep end of the pool, without anything. She signed me up for a football team because she realized I didn't know football, and I didn't know how to play football, and they just put me on a field and people started running.
Did you learn real quick?
No, I didn't. That's what pisses me off. Is people, so I pushed back, and then I got in trouble because I was big.
Yeah.
And so then I get, because there's no parent there to say it's okay or try again or any of that. Yeah. My mother was embarrassed, so she was just embarrassed that she tried to watch the Super Bowl with me, and I was like so disinterested.
You're like, no, I don't understand.
That really bugged her. That really bugged her. I played basketball.
Shout out real quick to Denver Stevio, who has an awesome channel.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, Dan.
Denver.
And
Witness.
And
Redwoods. I remember you.
Redwoods. Oh, yeah. So this must be for you. I got one of your CDs, and I was going through stuff.
Oh, yeah. Ba, 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 da, ba, da, da. That's the one. Yeah, I got a couple of CDs, but I don't even know where that, I don't have any control over that.
No?
No, the guys that made that, I don't even
Oh.
I don't even know how to talk to them really. But so I don't know. I don't know about, I don't know how to advocate for myself.
Hey, starts with saying it.
I just don't know how to stick up for myself, and I just let people walk on me because I think that's what I deserve, because that's what I'm used to.
Yeah. That's the thing.
And speaking of, it's that I don't even know how to call. I don't even know what to say. But I'm getting nervous about it. But the thing, I was talking about, this sort of your mother, for example, she gave me my first driving lesson. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
And she told me that, what was it? Just never be the worst one on the road. Never be the fastest or the slowest. And then you'll be okay.
Okay.
But there was this added with that, and there was another attempt by somebody else. I never had any interest. I never had any interest in driving. Driving kind of drove me nuts. I didn't like it. I didn't like Los Angeles. It makes no sense that I grew up there.
Yeah, you're such a New Yorker at heart.
New York made so much more sense to me, or just even something like London would be better, like someplace where it's not so aggravated. But but the car culture and the driving and the way people are in their cars and stuff, I don't know, for whatever reason, I never really learned how to drive. I never got my license. But the assumption was always like, oh, you just pick it up yourself. Because you want to do it. And I never wanted to do it, whatever that was, that people had that I want to drive for hours or whatever, for miles away. I never really had that.
Wow.
Which is, I don't know if that's good or bad.
I couldn't wait. I was right there.
I know. Usually people can't wait to get a car and get out. And I just I don't know. I think I was just too crushed by it. I didn't even have the inspiration to run or save myself. They used to come up on Facebook sometimes, like, what would you say to your younger self? Mm-hmm. That was one of those questionnaires they used to do on Facebook. They don't really do it anymore, but, and my answer was get out, run away.
Yeah.
And even when I did run away, my mother's attitude was always, oh, okay, so what? Because she never gave it or seemed to give a shit. I never really wanted, you just come back. It's when somebody
ran away. You actually ran away?
Well, I used to just take off. Take off and hang out on the streets on Hollywood Boulevard and hang out with gutter punks in the burnt out old brown derby.
There's a video of you. I won't say their names. I won't out them, but a few people who we knew back in the day. And my cousin had been sent to live with us for a little while. Her name was Jessie. And apparently she was really bad where she came from. So she came over to live with us Scientologists and get on the rails or whatever. Oh. And so I found a video at my mom's house and it's labeled Jessie's Out Ethics. And it's like you guys interviewing bums on Hollywood Boulevard.
Oh my God. Jessica? Was it Jessica?
Yeah.
Blonde from Texas. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my God. I didn't think I realized she was your cousin.
She was my cousin.
She dated Brett Reed.
Oh, did she?
Did you know that? Yes, she did. And she had a thing with Breon Luker and her were very tight. Wow, that's crazy. Renee probably remembers Jessica.
Yeah,
she was
in the service after that.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she joined the Air Force or something. And she was the Goblin King. I'm sorry. She was at risk youth.
Big time.
She was totally, I do remember that. And she was supposed to be getting better or something. And we weren't any, but see, again, as hooligan as we could get, that was it. Harassing bums on Hollywood Boulevard or talking to just the act of
talking. To hang out with them. You were just like, hey, dude,
talking to homeless people, to Scientologists is a bad thing. There's unethics right there because those people are degraded. You're not supposed to mingle.
I guess Jessie stole my mom's car though one night. I do remember that.
I'm willing to bet I was in that car at some point because there was a lot of stealing cars in the middle of the night when we were teenagers. Brett used to steal his mom's car too.
You guys are bad.
I thought it was normal. I felt like normal sort of suburban sort of thing to do, to steal the car at night and take joy rides out to the Calabasas or whatever. I never, the worst, what I did, my version of that was when we would get keys from the apartment building and party in those empty vacant apartments sometimes.
Yeah.
That was my version of stealing the car for a joyride.
There used to be a lot of ragers in there.
A lot of what?
Ragers.
Ragers. Oh, you're so cute. They were little subtle affairs. They were, it was maybe three or four or five people at the most. Just bad.
You guys just hanging out and getting drunk, right?
Getting drunk and bad things. Do you remember? God, I don't even want to tell this story. It's a horrible story. No, I shouldn't tell that story. It's a horrible story.
Let me hear it.
No, it's not even. No, because it's not really about me. It's just something I was there for. It's not really about me. It's about two other people, and one of them is no longer with us. So I'll leave it alone.
He remembers hanging.
Sometimes it was just hanging out, but sometimes those parties got a little rough. and we got busted because somebody was crawling across a balcony. We were in like one of those apartments that had the balconies that were next to the long balcony in between.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so it had a little balcony next to it, and that was like right next to the bigger balcony. And somebody got locked out, and so we went around somebody crawled around the bigger balcony on the little balcony to get into the bedroom.
Scary.
And that's how we got busted. Well, it wasn't me, it was one of the other people in the group. No, the drinking, man, the drinking. And that was a weird thing too, because we would mostly we go drink in like vacant lots, parking lots, that kind of thing, right? And there was this kind of like, there was this invitation to like drink at home rather than us drinking out in the streets. And so we did that too. But,
did your mom know?
Yeah. She was an alcoholic too.
Oh, so she
just a little more socially acceptable and functioning. What?
She didn't really care that you were drinking. She just wanted you to do it at home.
Yeah, I think that was a pretense, but yeah, that's what they said. That's what her and a couple of other mothers said. Yeah, Ritalin caused a lot of problems when it came out. We used to treat, neurotypical kids on a massive scale. Juvenile brains for drug dependency.
Yeah, it was definitely overprescribed at a certain point, but now I think it's like crazily the opposite. Like I had to do a whole test and go through all these motions to even be considered for ADHD medication, which is interesting.
Wow. Yeah, I think definitely the attitudes have changed on it, because it did seem like I don't want to say it was like M&Ms or anything. Of course, I'm also neuroatypical. Yeah. Okay. Oh, thank you. Of course, I'm, I was propagandized to I'm biased because I grew up believing that psychiatry was actually actively trying to kill people.
So at what point did that change for you? I mean, not that, they're the best in the world, but
I don't know when it changed exactly, but I do have this tendency to go to a movie reference, a movie called Laurel Canyon. And Christian Bale is in med school. He's studying to be a psychiatrist, and him and some of the other students go to have a little party, and they're watching old footage from like the 1950s of like lobotomies and stuff like that. And they're having such a great laugh about how ridiculous that is and how it's not at all like that anymore. And I realized, but that's what we were taught. It was like, we were taught that exact thing that they're making fun of, exactly what they showed us. And said, this is psychiatry. This like lobotomy and through the eyeball thing, like you just like, and then like weirdly, Carrie Fisher, who played Princess Leia and was also an author and satirist and very, very, very smart, funny lady. And she did a couple of like one-woman shows, and one of them is all about her electroshock therapy and praising it to high, all sorts of ways that I still don't understand. I'm not sure if I trust, but
did Carrie Fisher pass away recently?
A while ago. She passed away right after the new Star Wars that she's in, where she plays Commander Leia.
Yeah.
In fact, some of that was CGI, special CGI, because I think she died before they finished.
Oh.
But I'm not certain. But yeah, I'm pretty sure she died while they were still working on that. But she's in the movie, so it's all right.
There's one actress who passed away pretty recently from similar genre. And she had a weird Scientology background. I'm trying to think of the name, but she claimed until the day she died that Osa was after her. And it's someone who like we didn't really ever hear about or know.
I don't know.
Maybe it'll come to me. It was on Tony Ortega's blog when she passed away.
What is with
tried to contact him?
Tony Ortega? I don't know. I mean, Tony Ortega is a journalist, right?
Yeah.
He's not a Scientologist though.
Nope, he's just always been the dude who reports on it, and
he's just one of the primary guys who talks about it. Okay.
Yeah, he used to work at
and then what about what's the guy Mitch Brisker? And he wasn't really a Scientologist either, or was he? He just worked for gold, or
yeah, it's very weird. He was treated like a Sea Org member, but he wasn't a Sea Org member.
Right.
So he worked directly for David Miscavige, and they, he made all the films. So he actually got paid a lot of money, which is wild.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's like, I don't know how involved to get in any of this, but I catch little wind of these arguments that are going on within
it's drama. It's tea.
and I, and it's like, and I don't want to pick sides, and I don't really know anybody really except you. And there's there's people I want to believe more, and there's I don't know, but like everybody seems to be so fucking at each other, and I don't know why.
It's true.
Certainly, like I don't know, I don't want to speak to it, but Mitch Brisker
a whole little, I know it's a lot of back and forth, including the Mitch Brisker. I will say that he made a video that he deleted, and it was titled "To Second Gens, I'm Not Your Daddy," which is very bizarre. But Mitch,
what does he mean? Like he's not going to be there to what? Be a advisor or what?
Yeah, he was trying to say that basically everybody was projecting their daddy issues onto him.
Okay. I don't know what to say to that other than fuck you, Mitch. Give it a rest. You have garnered a lot off of this thing. And so if a few people want to throw some daddy issues at you, God, get over it. You're an old man. People throw daddy issues at me all the fucking time, and I'm not even that old. People almost, people not even that much younger than me or even older.
You're like, I'm not your daddy.
Oh, I don't know. I think that's childish, but I don't know. There was a whole other thing where he was coming at Nora.
Yeah.
And it just sounded childish. It just sounded like so much of a me thinks they do protest too much kind of
thing. When I met him in person, he was super nice.
Of course. They're always nice in person, these Scientologists. Yeah. They're always nice when you meet them in person. Face to face. Oh God, we're really good at that. The code shifting. There's something I've learned about in the streets. That's a whole other deal, but Scientologists do it a lot. Code shift it's just changing your tone to fit whatever it is. There's something I didn't realize. So like the idea of matching tone level, right? And this is something other people have pointed out I do out of habit. Where I will and in New York City, you really notice it because people come at you in antagonism so often you can't help yourself but come back at them that way, right? And so the idea is then you raise people's tone level, right? And it never even crossed my mind to do it the other way.
What's the other way?
To lower people's tone level, to make people less whatever, to make people less functional.
That's never really crossed my mind either.
No, it's one of these conversations with one of the people who were in the Sea Org talking about that. And I think that's a Sea Org thing. There's little secrets in the Sea Org that we don't even know.
Oh, totally. They had it way different.
I mean, I knew they all looked down on us, but I didn't know they were told to. I didn't know that was policy.
It's policy. Someone had left a comment on our video from last week asking about where's the reference for Target 2, and I have no idea. I think it was just a word of mouth thing, right?
I have no idea where there's a reference to Target. No, I don't know. That was just, I think that was just an excuse they made up. That was, he left on purpose. It's not sad. That was the thing. When I was talking about my dad died and I was talking about that kid they sent to counsel me or whatever, and I was so angry with him, I didn't realize until later on, because he was essentially telling me not to mourn. He was essentially telling me I didn't have to be sad. Don't be sad. And it was you should, you gotta, it's okay to be sad. But it took me a long time to know that, to figure that out. That's that Pixar movie is great. That Inside Out, where the Joy character just wants the little girl to be happy all the time. And then the melancholy gets in there and freaks her out. But that's life. And that's the, the textures of life and the
not being able to express tone levels below anger is a long time lasting dramatic effect. It really is. And it's not to say that I can't, but I don't want other people to see it usually.
I don't know. I guess I had the privilege of being a drunken bum. So all bets are off, babe. That's the real privilege of having been absolutely drunken bum, homeless, nothing matters. You don't care. You really don't care. Nothing matters. So it's a real gift in that sense. And I talk to myself all the time now, which is great. And I express my feelings, and I don't, well, I try not to shame myself. I still shame myself, but there is a freedom to being that far gone. You know, you don't have to live up to anybody's expectation for anything about anything.
Yeah, you're not worrying about, anybody judging your tone level at that point.
And it's insane too, because somebody asked me about that, or you asked me about that, I think, about whether or not I carried a weapon or if I felt like I was in danger or anything, like the freedom of getting out from under that, the psychological was so much better than whatever fear I had of my physical self on the streets of New York City. Like, I don't even know that I mean, yeah, you think about it, but not really. Like, I don't know. I don't know. That wasn't, oh, it's dangerous. I was, the first time when I first came to New York, one of the first friends I made in New York was a guy called Michael. We met in the video store, and he's a local. He's from Lower East Side, born and raised. And one night we were walking home. We were walking from home from the video store, and we walked. It was the first time I went through Washington Square Park at night. And to him, growing up in New York City, it was dangerous to go to Washington Square Park at night. So he was afraid to go. And I was like, come on, we'll just walk through the park. It's no big deal. I didn't think it was that big a deal. Anyway, we're walking through the park, and we get, just as we're leaving, all of a sudden some guys start coming out of the fucking bushes, and it scared us, and we scurried off, right? And then years later, I found it really funny that I then was the guy in the bushes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know the point of that. I don't know what the point. I forgot what my point was, but
no, I mean, that's interesting in general, I don't know, it just goes to show that everybody goes through their different things, and like judging people isn't really
what you fear the unknown, the thing that's in the bushes, the thing unseen, the thing in the shadows. It's scary, scary, scary. And for us growing up, it was psychiatry and stuff like that, or the world in general. But it's not. And then especially if you find yourself actually literally being the other side of that conversation, you realize it's a lot of crazy talk. It's a lot of people being afraid for no reason.
Do you ever have anxiety about saying no to things?
In what way? You mean like asked to do things or offers for things?
Like if somebody who you cared about or whatever asked you to do something, or even offered a shift at work, and then
like you always feel like you have to like placate or be the nice guy or be the one that like, oh yeah. Not anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, for a long time. Yeah. I always felt like that was, do you think that's a Scientology thing?
I feel like it's, I teased it out, and at the end of the day, if we were to say no to something or weren't VGIs, as they say, very good indicators, then it is like you're getting punished. You're going to the word clearer, or you're
funny, because I always just thought of it as being like, I don't feel worthy. I don't feel like I'm not even worthy, but like I'm not allowed to say no because I'm still earning my place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I was like, that was the thing about growing up in my house, was I always felt like I was trying to earn my place. And then added to that was the sort of cultural thing of being a weirdo Scientologist in the real world and having to kind of explain or argue about that. I can remember arguing about it in class and stuff. And it was just, it's such a bizarre soul crushing thing when you're 14. No, other people brought it up.
Oh, how'd they even know?
It came up, and I don't remember who brought it up or why it came up, but it did. And the teacher said something, and I was like, "Oh, you can't say that." And
that's like, so embarrassing.
And it was, and it was like, that's not. And it was all about L. Ron Hubbard being a con man, charlatan, like John. I think he was being compared to John Smith of the Church of Latter-day Saints.
Oh wow!
I think that's what it was. I think we were just like that part of American history of the whole covered wagons and the planes and that kind of thing.
I can't believe you got called out. I was just always trying to keep that to myself.
Always did. I mean, I know, I'm just saying, like, this is one of the few times I actually said it out loud, and I'm still embarrassed. I still feel gross about it. I still get a pain in my stomach thinking about it. But I carry embarrassment very, very heavily. But not, as a person, not as an artist, right? There's no place for,
you're a performer. You have a good stage presence.
There's no place in an artist's life for embarrassment. That's what an acting teacher of mine used to say.
It sounds about right.
So okay. So we were talking about this, and I wanted to get into that because it was something we just said. Now I forgot what it was already. Oh, the thing about my mother. I feel like setting me up for failure. She did a lot of this sort of expecting me to just suss it out and figure it out or OT it out or whatever. Just kind of threw me in the deep end and went, all right, swim. And, I didn't, I sank. And then she didn't ever do any of the reparative sort of like mothering. She didn't go, it's okay, baby, you can do it next time. She never, that was no sympathy, no sympathy. Do you remember that? Was it like that in your house? No, sympathy is evil for demons or something.
Yeah, that wild.
And empathy, what the fuck is that?
Crazy. Yeah, I didn't know until I was an adult what empathy meant.
And so all of that was to say, last week when you froze and then you went away for a little while and I sang a song and then I was alone on this fucking thing for like a minute and I started to panic and then you come back and in my head I start getting paranoid about thinking you did that on purpose to like force me to like wing it myself and once he does it himself he won't be afraid of it anymore, but that doesn't help me. Like these are the things that have fucked me up. Is that, again with the way your mother and other like, just give him a driving lesson, he'll want to drive, and I didn't want to drive, and I don't know if that's my fault or what, but I think everything's my fault. So
well, that's interesting that you bring that up though, because people can call that paranoid too. Like that comes up if you're reading into things, because I've gone through phases like that where I think everything kind of has a meaning.
Well, yeah, and it's part of the great big overthink too, to like to attach a greater meaning to random things or to things that don't matter. Even like when we were talking and I was talking about what my father said when we came into that room just before he died. And he said to my mother, or she said to him, she said, fine young man. But when I was telling you the story, I said, fine man. I didn't say young man. I misspoke. But then when you repeated it back at me, you said, fine young man.
Oh, interesting.
And then I joked, now I'm a grumpy old man. But I'm like, later on, I'm like, how did she know? How did she know that? How did she know that she actually said fine young man? When I was telling the story, I said fine man. I didn't say fine young man.
And if I was my mother or a Scientologist, I'd say I picked it up in the Theta universe.
Yes, you would. I just OT'd it out of your head. And that's always a joke. Get out of my head. People always doing that. Get out of my head kind of stuff. It's like, no, I really am in your head. Like that thing I was telling you about Carla, like it really felt like she was in my head. And then like I feel like no matter what the reality, I'm like they're susceptible to believing in that sort of thing. Because mind control is
what has your experience been with like mental health professionals having knowing that Scientology is wild and crazy and that they actually do things like want to know where you are? Like, have you had anybody be like, oh sure they are, or like
well, no, I mean, like, honestly, when I first started mentioning it to people, the conversation never went very far. It's only recently with the therapist I'm with now, that I've even really talked about it very much. Even my last beau, who I was with for a while, I don't know if I ever mentioned it to him, to be honest. I might not have. I would be surprised that I never mentioned it, but I certainly don't remember ever talking about it, and certainly not getting into these questions of, am I paranoid, or is it real? Is it real or my imagination? And there's it's in one of my songs. There's a lot of that. So what was I saying? So the question was, yes. Like I said before, like when I'd mentioned it before, there was never really any sort of understanding of what I was talking about, generally speaking, especially if you're just talking to like someone that's doing a psychosocial or something, like not really a therapist. They're not as interested. They think you're talking about Christian Scientists and they go on with it. But so there's been a learning curve, certainly. I have to like explain that like this isn't just out of the blue. I don't feel this way because I feel it's a combination of both. I think there's both a rational response to real things that happen and also an irrational overthink, fear, anxiety that then built up over time in the context of that reality. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think she gets that. I think she feels that. And she saw the movie. She saw I always make sure everybody sees the HBO movie.
Oh, Going Clear.
The Prison of Belief. That's the same thing, right? It's got too many titles, but that's the one.
No, that one's incredible.
Yeah, the Alex Gibney HBO doc. It's very, very good. And the other there was one other paranoid thought I had about you, and I can't remember what it was. But
about me.
Like, I don't know, I don't know, even when people are nice to me, Vanessa, I'm so fucking suspicious. I'm so fucking like, why are you being nice? What are you really getting at? And then I was talking about before, like, there is a certain sort of social norm of kind of like trying to ingratiate yourself to people and being nice in a way that I'm suspicious of. That's actually somebody being nice to me, Or like the tuba story. When I was in high school, I had a friend who played piano, and she used to practice in one of these practice rooms under the auditorium. There was there was a great big stage where the band practiced, and then there was this hallway with little practice rooms. Anyway, and so I used to wait for her sometimes in that band practice area. And the band leader, the guy who ran band, started talking to me one day about the tuba. And he's lying to me. He's telling me, like, he's trying to make it sound like there's something unique and special about me. That is why he feels I should play the tuba. And the truth is, you need a big fat kid to carry the tuba around. That's the truth, right? And so right there, I'm like, he's not telling me the truth. I don't know what it is, but it's something. And so I just disengage. I don't talk to him anymore. And it's one of those things that bites me in the ass, because at least if I'd learned to play, if I'd let him trick me into picking up the tuba, at least I would have learned how to read and write music. At least I would have like some, an actual, like, something I actually learned how to do, not something I could figure out myself. So stuff like that, like it does get in my way.
I totally understand that, because you're thinking that someone might have other intentions, because it's happened so many times.
And also, not for nothing, I'm right enough of the time. Enough of the time, I'm fucking full on right for me to just think, well, I'm just good at like seeing people, because people, I don't know, people.
Well, when we came from a religion that was literally based on coercive control, like being coerced to do anything is super creepy to me.
That's it. I'm going to write that: coercive control. That's exactly what it is. And that's how I feel all the time. Coerced.
It's honestly offensive. And I was on the phone with somebody last week who was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm sitting on my couch. Like, how are you sitting? I'm like, I'm sitting at the end with my legs off of it. And they were like, well, sit back and relax yourself. Put your back on the couch. And it literally like spooked me out so much. And it's that same kind of thing where, like, I wish I could let somebody be like, relax, like take a load off while we're talking.
Oh, God.
But I'm like, no,
that's exactly. And it's a problem in relationships. It's a problem in all sorts of places. No, anytime I feel like I'm being maneuvered or manipulated or coerced, it's like,
I'm like
stand still. Don't let them move you. Oh, fuck you, Vanessa.
Yeah. I used to have to do those drills where they're like, touch the wall. Okay, now don't touch the wall. Okay, now walk over to that wall.
And not for nothing is like when somebody's having a psychotic break, alcoholic-induced psychotic break on the streets of New York City.
Yeah.
A little feel my finger, a little look at that tree. It works. It's helpful.
Does the feel my finger really help? Is that
what helps? What helps is just sort of like what my mother would call body calm.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. But the look at the tree, look at the building, the externalized thing. Get out of your head and look at something outside of your head.
Yeah. That's also
that is very effective.
Drunk person sober. That's what Ron said.
Well, I don't know if it makes a drunk person
Forget
sober,
about science.
But no, it doesn't make you sober, but it can when you're that kind of drunk, when you're drunk that much, you're drunk all the time, it is really easy to lose your mind for real. And I have seen some crazy shit. I have seen people act out, like literally act out moments of pain and fear and trauma before my very eyes, like Princess Leia in Star Wars when it's broken. Help me, Obi-Wan. You're my only hope. Help me, Obi-Wan. You're my only hope. Like that, like somebody actually repeating something like that in real time in front of your eyes. So I don't know. It doesn't exactly fix it, but I don't know that it really fixes anything. But
No.
I always thought that I had some sort of like way with that.
Well, I mean, it is a little trick. It's like a little tip. It's one of those things that you can hold on to when there's not many out of Scientology that
Or
really
eat,
work.
you know, the notion of hangry.
Yeah.
That's
You're
a very
outraged.
that's a very Scientology thing. That's
Yeah.
very true. Half the guys
Yeah.
I know, why are you mad? Why don't you put some food in your mouth and see if you feel any
Yeah.
different? Oh, look what happened.
That's
You know,
like
that kind of
common
thing.
sense though, like feed your body, but
Yeah.
Scientology took it to mean like an extra level. You're out rudes, you're out rudiments, you know.
Well, rudiments, what is rudiments is rudimentaries, your basics.
Yeah, are you hungry? Are
And
you
that's the
tired?
basics of being on lines or being on chorus is well fed, well rested,
Mhm.
and there's a third one, isn't there?
Yeah. People used to gain a lot of weight when they go to flag because you have to like have so much protein in your body all the time.
That is so funny. I didn't even realize that, but that makes sense. That's really funny. I remember everybody going for their knots. Do they still have that? That
They
was a
still
big
do.
everybody going to flag. Everybody going to flag for that. Oh, I watched part of. Wait, was this Denver Steve says?
Still
I
hear from someone who lived through the Scientology going clear is great. I've heard some people recently say it was inaccurate, but I trust you more. I thought it was excellent. I thought as far as the documentary goes, it was excellent.
what was inaccurate? I wonder.
I don't know. I've heard people say that too, though. That it was just kind of whatever. But honestly, I think it's the best introductory thing you could have them watch if they're not going to sit down and watch a whole season of Leo's show, The Aftermath. You know, have you seen those?
I haven't seen the aftermath. You know, Jamie was talking about him a lot, and I actually was in a long conversation with one of their producers.
Oh,
A friend of mine, Sarah, and I can't remember her last name. They have a long Greek name, I don't remember, with a P. Sarah, yeah. And she was staff at LA Day, and her little sister was working on production on that show.
Oh,
and,
interesting.
And she called me up because of the Opie and Anthony stuff, the creep thing. And they really wanted me on the show. But at that point, the focus was policy. Like Leah had gotten very focused on, you know, because we can just say, oh, here's this guy and he's all fucked up by Scientology. And then they can say, nah, his mother fucked him up. No, something else. It had nothing to do with us. Right. And so she got focused on going, no, here's the policy that says do this. People did that. And here's what happened.
Yeah.
And so it was like, and that became a lot of what we were talking about because my problem, my story is complicated and convoluted and compound, and it's not just one thing.
It would have been a great episode, I'll tell you that.
Well, you know, I'm interesting sometimes.
I talked to Mike Rinder when they were doing it, but I was so scared. I was still at the point where I literally thought they were tapping my phone lines or something. Like I didn't know what they were capable of, but I knew that I had to be my own thought police, you know, like I couldn't leave comments on anything that was anti-Scientology. I was still super scared. So it just
the first time I did, it was a site that you were on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a site that you were. I was in the psych ward, Vanessa, and I got special privilege to use the computer. And I posted a song, and I somehow found you. I don't remember how. Yeah. But you had sent me a message somewhere, and there was a Scientology, ex-Scientology page that I.
Oh yeah, the Kids of Scientology or something like that.
Something like that. Now I'm in like 50 of them, so I don't.
Yeah.
But that was the first one. It was because.
Oh, that's so crazy. That's
and wild. You were so excited to tell me that you were studying psychiatry, that you were going to be
so excited. You were in the psych ward.
So excited. I was in the psych ward. I was in a psych ward at the time. For real.
I always tell people, like, be careful with who you're talking to online, because literally, like,
anybody. I could be
They're like on the computer.
Grooming Scientologists to come out. I'm out of the Scientology.
Yeah, no, it was really scary to even leave a comment on anything, or it's just, you're not supposed to be friends with certain people. And for a while there, I was scared because I didn't want them to take my family. But then after they took my family, it didn't make sense. I was still scared.
Right. What more could they do at that point?
Yeah, which is why I decided to start speaking louder and stuff, you know?
Yeah. When my mother died, it was a real relief for me for that and for other reasons too. But there's nothing left there. And except Kelly, you know, that's funny. Actually, Kelly, my oldest sister, she's still a Scientologist, and I don't know where her kids are at or what they're doing as far as that goes. But yeah, well, you know, Kelly. But I'm sure she doesn't want to talk to me. She barely say again. So what?
She must have married one.
She did, yeah. Her ex-husband now.
Mm-hmm.
Who was a total creep, by the way.
Yeah.
her ex-husband, when I first came to New York, I stayed in a house that they were living in a place called Harrison, New York, just upstate, just outside of the city. And in what's called the outside, what New Yorkers call outside, side of the city. And but she wasn't there. She was in Florida doing whatever she was doing. And it's great. I can actually say she was in Florida doing whatever, her year check or whatever it was. Like she was in Florida doing some Scientology shit. Usually I'm like, she was in Florida with her kids for some reason, but I don't know why.
We know what you're talking about.
Yeah, she was in Florida. So for a few months, it was just me and Bob in that house together. And it was that could be a play just onto itself, just the bizarreness of these two people, because he was an investment banker. That's what he did for a living. And a very, you know, clean cut guy and a very sort of proper dude, but also an alcoholic. And that was the one thing we had in common, was the love of the music of Harry Nilsson and a good red wine. Yeah. But he stopped talking to me because I corrected him, because he came back. I used the word ironic, and I can't remember what we're talking about. I think it has something to do with the Everblades. And he said, that's not what that means. That's not what that word means. All nasty like that, right? And like a good Scientologist, he reaches behind his head and pulls a great big red bound unabridged dictionary off the shelf, opens the book. I say to him, when the actual meaning is the exact opposite of its literal meaning, when what it looks like or seems like is the exact opposite of what it really is, or sounds like. And the only reason I really know that, though, is because of the movie Reality Bites with Winona Ryder and Ethan Hawke, because Winona Ryder gets pegged with that question at one point, and then Ethan Hawke's like, easy. And you're like, fuck you. Where were you when I was in the elevator? Anyway, but so I had that right there. And then Lannis Morris said, my generation, we have a relationship with this word.
Yeah.
And so I said it, that's not what that word means. And he looks it up, he looks at it, and I'm watching him sit there and read it over and over again. I can see him reading the sentence over and over again. He looks at me with the most scathing, like he just was, I don't think he wanted to kill me, puts the dictionary back, walked out, and never spoke to me again.
Oh my God, what an asshole.
Oh my God. He already hated me. Like he hated me from the beginning. And I don't even know how to explain what Bob was about. I don't know why she married him. I don't know what she liked about him. He was not very nice. Nobody in the family liked him. None of the sisters liked him. Mom didn't like him. Mom tried so hard, actually, to be nice to him. And he was just an unfriendly guy, just a really unfriendly guy. But what I understand now in recovery, though, he's what we call a white knuckler. So he's a guy who's like still very addicted, but just staying sober for the sake of whatever, the busyness of life and wife and kids and course.
Yeah.
But never really dealing with whatever the shit was that got him using in the first place.
Do you go to meetings?
I haven't in a while, but I used to go religiously when I first got sober in 2010, I think it was, or 11, I forget now. But then I had to recount in 2012. It doesn't matter. But the point is, I was going to a regular meeting all the time. There was a couple of meetings I went to all the time. And I kind of, it's funny because I really stopped going so often, really. But there's a whole culty culture to AA. There's a weird political culture in there also that was no fun to deal with. I think my disillusionment was a pair of things. There was my difficulty in finding a sponsor and how I would date these people. You ask somebody, would you be my sponsor? They'd go, well, let's go have coffee. Let's have a conversation. We talk. And then I never hear from them again. Or the one guy who did agree to be my sponsor, he moved to Brazil. And I never understood the goal. Am I selling me to you, or you selling you to me? I'm not sure how this works,
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. The point is, then there was this thing about, there was this guy who used to come to the meeting drunk. And it was not pleasant. He was weird and people didn't like him and nobody wanted to sit next to him and stuff, but he kept coming. And in the big book, there is this sort of like idea that this is for anybody who wants it, and anybody who comes to ask for it, even if they're inebriated, like you can't like hate them for that. You can't necessarily turn them away. But then the politics of the room and the people who run that room go, well, we don't want him here. And so they actually had a vote. They actually put a vote to whether or not to ban him.
Oh,
and
wow.
So I went to speak on behalf of this guy who I couldn't stand, to be honest. I couldn't stand this guy, but I knew how bad it feels to be thrown away. And I know how bad it feels to be rejected. And I know how bad it feels to be whatever, a drunk who doesn't know what to do with themselves. And I thought that was the point of AA but no, they just, it was this politics. And the person who was running the meeting was somebody I swear to God, for 2 years, I was in this room all day, almost every day. And the person running the meeting, who is the president of the group, is someone I'd never seen before. So it's like that. It's like, who the fuck are you even? You don't even come to this meeting that I know of. Or she comes to one Sunday meeting or something. I don't know. But the whole thing just really bugged me. And then there was this weird incident with a guy who gave me some clothes. And he gave me a bunch of like Daisy Duke cutoff shorts and Queensryche t-shirts. And I made a joke to him about how much I don't like Queensryche, because I don't. And he took it really personal. Like I was saying, fuck you to his gift. But I wore the fucking t-shirt. And there was this sort of like weird invitation to go home with him. And I think he wanted me to fuck his wife. I'm not sure. But something like that was definitely going on. And I did not respond. And people get mad at me.
So it got a little sticky at the meetings.
I'm just saying, like, personalities, as they say. You got to deal with personalities.
Yeah.
And the whole point, like the big part of how recovery in that context works is this sort of, is the being of service and what's the word they use? Not camaraderie, but that the group thing, the sort of like, I can't remember the word they use, but, and so like when the people there are like being weird or sexually inappropriate or political or culty, it's like, well, how do I build a community out of these people? But
I like this one. Leave a cult and drink because you were in a cult. Join a cult to stop drinking because you're in a cult. Isn't it ironic?
Isn't it ironic? Don't you think? Thank you, Renee. That's hilarious. That's fucking hilarious. Leave a cult and drink because you're in a cult. Join a cult to stop drinking. Yeah. Put that on a t-shirt.
Did they end up kicking the dude out?
Yeah, they voted to kick him out.
Interesting.
And I just stopped going. And then I still went to a couple of meetings every once in a while. But, in New York City, it's also because it's New York City. So like also what is true of New York City is a couple of things, is there's more AA meetings in New York City per capita than any other place in the world.
Oh, wow.
But in New York, at that moment, it seemed to be kind of hip to be in recovery, I think, because there were a lot of young people who like maybe didn't really need to be here. And just sort of like enjoying the grit of being around real drunks or something. Like there was a lot of that going on too. Like you'd hear people like, fucking orchestrating a share that, the shares are supposed to be these personal traumas. You're talking about these horrible things that happen. And you hear people talking like they're scripting or they're reading a monologue from an old Great American play or something. And that kind of started to bug me too, but pretension again with the pretension. But in a place where it's supposed to be anything but.
Yeah, no, I know that the ones in LA are totally, each one you go to is a different vibe. There's the Silver Lake one, there's the Echo Park one, there's the West Hollywood ones. They're like, everyone has a different thing. I have a friend who orchestrates them, like, he volunteers and does the whole thing, and he's really into it. But what I find interesting about people in recovery,
it's the best way to stay sober is to be of service, is to do that.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. I think it's really good for him. But also it's interesting, like they have a relationship with alcohol, whether or not they're drinking, right? So that is still a thing in their life that they spend a lot of time on, and
alcohol or compulsive behavior, subconscious desires. There's all sorts of layers to what that means. It manifests in drinking or drug use, depending on your drug of choice, but there's also all this underlying stuff.
Yeah.
The unconscious compulsive stuff. That's scary.
Totally.
And I was at the end there, I was a real blackout drunk. So that's really scary. That's really scary when you lose time like that and you have no idea what happened. And Sometimes circumstances are not good, and sometimes there's somebody around who might tell you about it, and sometimes there isn't. And
yeah, that must have been dangerous, like being blackout drunk, especially if you were.
So it's like funny, like the blackout drunk guy, he has no fear. And so like the few times somebody would tell me about what I was doing, what I was up to, it was usually something along the lines of you were just walking up to people and talking to people and trying to like be all in people's business and stuff and flirting with everybody and just kind of like being super brazen in some kind of way. And it's and there's a thing that like kind of sucks about it, because there is a kind of like power to that personality, that id person that just doesn't give a shit, right?
Yeah.
But it's not sustainable, and it leads you down dark paths, and you end up in the emergency room at the end. Most of those times that's where I usually ended up.
Yeah. Did you have to detox medically and all that?
A bunch of times. Yeah, that's the thing. When you're drunk on the streets, that's what you do. That's how you take a break. Every once in a while, you just go to a public hospital and you detox. And you take the 7 days or whatever to detox. And if you're lucky, somebody talks you into going to a halfway house or something other than back into the streets.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you do that with the intention of just going right back.
That's nuts, but that makes perfect sense.
God bless. I'm so glad. Thank you for, how you survive. But I don't know. It's, people ask me about like, was it dangerous or was I scared and stuff? I was like, yes, very much. But it's like, then I'm sitting there right now thinking about stuff. And it's just like so much more. Every time I think about it, I realize how much scarier it really was than I thought it was. At the time, I didn't think about it. Oh, like that trip to Newark or the time in Philly. My God, I was almost shot like 3 times in Philly. And
you were doing crazy stuff. You told us the story.
Well, like I didn't even tell you the part about with Newark. I told you the New York story.
Yeah, that was nuts.
That story is crazy. But I just I was thinking about just one of these nights where I was just so drunk I couldn't even get up, but it was so cold that I'm just shivering compulsively. I cannot stop shaking. But I can't even get up to make it to the subway where it's at least warmer downstairs. And just praying to die, just praying, please, to whatever invisible thing that I don't even believe in. I just want to be done already.
Yeah.
And that's hard. It's hard to, I don't know, I think it's hard to come back from that. It's hard to like I have a hard time still kind of motivating myself to live.
So do I.
Other than getting up out of bed, and like God bless the dog, like it's not even a joke. Like how much I live just to like make sure she gets fed and walked every day.
Same. If I didn't have my 3 dogs, I don't know what would be the situation right now, but that is a purpose for living.
And she's incredible. She's just perfect. She's just so good in all the ways you want a dog to be good. She's so good.
Yeah.
She's so good to me. And even like we got caught in the rain today. And every once in a while we get caught in the rain now. She used to be so scared of the rain. I can't remember where I talked about this, but she's looking at me. It's just the funniest little look. She has so much trust that I will fix it, that I will make the rain stop and take her home. It's so sweet. She's like, you can make it go away, right, Pop? I'm like, all right, I'll make the rain go away.
I know. Isn't it the best taking care of these fur babies?
She's so sweet.
Yeah.
She has no idea how awful I really am.
I want to be the person my dog thinks I am.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, right. I want to be as good as my dog believes I really am. Yeah. Although your dog kind of thinks you're a god, so I don't know if I want all that, but just be president or something. What do you think of Kamala Harris? Are we allowed to talk politics?
Yeah, let's talk politics. I was going to ask you the same thing.
I'm thrilled.
I'm thrilled too. I don't know.
I hope to God Pete Buttigieg.
People agree with us, but hey, it's a woman.
I'm thrilled. Not just a woman. Like I know who Kamala Harris is. She's from California. Like she's not a new person to me. And if you want a taste of who she is and what I love about her, you can find it. It's Jeff Sessions, who was the Department of Justice, who was DOJ under Trump the first term, only term. And
don't say first
I'm sorry. The guy that recused himself, and Trump never forgave him because he did the right thing.
I remember that.
But his confirmation hearing, Kamala Harris was the chair of that committee. And this is a great moment of a white man from the South, not like literally losing his mind that a woman is talking to him like this, never mind a woman of color. Like he cannot process it in his head to the extent that she's asking him these direct questions. He keeps going, what? Like he doesn't hear her. Some white guy off camera, because it's C-SPAN, so there's no cutaway. You don't know who it is.
Yeah.
Some white guy off camera repeats the question. Then he hears it. Then he answers it. And they go through this like over and over and over again. And it's fucking hilarious. This man is like almost pissing his pants because he can't deal with a woman talking to him with any kind of authority. But that's her job. She's not bossy. She is the boss.
Yeah.
And he doesn't see it that way. He's like, why is this woman talking? Only my mother's ever talked to me this way. He has no idea what he's doing there. And it's really hilarious. For me, that's what I love about her is that what she made Jeff Sessions piss his pants.
Yeah. No, I love that.
And like I've said, Donald Trump and these kind of guys, they are afraid of women. They are afraid of women. And that's, I think, what we need is a woman that can frighten him a little bit. And she's not put off.
Attorney who's young.
And she knows, and what she's already said, like, I have criminals and liars and con artists. She's been dealing with these types all her fucking career.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, I think it's great. I'm excited. I hope that even the debates are going to be good, you know. She's not going to cower. She's a real ball buster.
She is. And I don't want her to be afraid to be a ball buster. I think women sometimes are afraid to be ball busters.
Yeah.
Because they're called bitches. But don't be afraid to be a bitch. And I think she should run with Pete Buttigieg because 2 reasons. 1, because he is so nice. So she can be as much of a bitch as she wants to be. And he can be the nice guy that cleans it up if he wants to be, which I think he would be really good at. And 2, because it's something Democrats do that I usually don't like, which is where they double down on what is their perceived strength, but what by the opponent is seen as their weakness. So they got a woman of color. And so it would make perfect sense for her to run with a gay man. Everything that the right hates, right? All in one ticket.
That would be wonderful.
And he is so smart and so poised and so articulate and on point. And he is the nerd. He's the nerd we need. He's the nerd we need.
I got to look into him. I don't know too much about him. Denver Studio says, speaking of afraid of women, how about that Project 2025? Yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah, that is exactly what a lot of that is about. And that is the real deep state. These people want to talk about deep state. Yeah. The real deep state in America is the evangelical fundamentalist Christian deep state. There are people all over this country who believe in God in some warped, fucked up way that justifies them not doing their jobs right, lying and cheating, fucking things up for others just because they think they're forwarding their goal of clearing the planet, their version of that. And it terrifies me to think about the fact that Christians, especially these nut job Christians, they are rooting for the end of the world. Yeah. They're rooting for the end of the world. They are in their narrative, life is suffering, and you have to follow these fucked up rules and suffer through in order to gain access to heaven. And the best way to get to heaven is the rapture, is the Armageddon, the end of the fucking world. That's why they support Donald Trump, because he is the Antichrist. And that is not hyperbole. He's not some monster from hell. He is, as described, the guy that will bring about the war, the conflict.
Do they really think that? Like,
There are Christians who honestly believe this. I'm not making this stuff up. I wish I was.
No.
I wish I was. You remember the woman, I don't remember her name, but Mike Huckabee came to her rescue. And she was a county clerk in, I want to say, North Carolina. And she refused, it was right after marriage equality was passed by the Supreme Court. And she refused to sign off marriage certificates for same-sex couples. And she claimed that she had a religious right to do that. This is what I'm talking about. She is just an example of, there are millions of the thousands probably, but I don't know the numbers, right? But there are thousands of these people all over the country who are willing to break the rules and be in conflict of their oath of office. Beyond
we understand that very deeply, because there's a lot of people who we grew up with who would do anything
And this is the cult mentality, the means to an end, the idea that you can break your own rules if it's going to forward some, inevitable goal of clearing the planet or the rapture or whatever bullshit thing you believe in. Say what? I didn't hear that.
And that other people are a means to an end. I mean, at the end of the day, Scientologists literally use other people as means to their end. They're just tools. It's really
that one makes my stomach hurt. And that's it's just like a disposable resource. There's this thing about in economics, this idea of there's the disposable resources like coal and lumber, and at some point we started treating human labor in the same way, right? And that is what we're looking at in like when they build for the World Cup in Qatar, and they're just importing desperate, impoverished people and just forcing them to do all the work, or whatever it is. And that's what the Sea Org does as well.
Yeah.
And that's what I think the end result of capitalism and the sort of conservative notions of the capitalist ideations of Americans and the free market in general is the end result is human labor as a disposable resource. And that's why the poor gets poor and the richer get rich, because they want the people that are rich, they want people who are poor to stay poor or get poorer. They create scarcity so that people are desperate, so that people are willing to do things for less money, so that people are willing to do things for almost nothing because there's nothing else available to them.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And the job market is wild right now. I mean, it's really.
What's wild right now?
The job market. It's not easy to get jobs. It's really not. Like.
Yeah. And they don't. I don't know. I can't. I privileged here that I haven't had to have a job. I don't have a job.
Yeah.
I wish I did, but I don't know. I don't even know what to say to that. If you're, you have to look at the functionality of your system. If your system isn't working, change it, throw it away. The way we've been trying to do this for a long time, and it is a conservative notion, this idea of empowering the rich, and somehow that's going to fix everything else. It's not fucking working. And then ultimately it's the profit motive. Like everybody thinks that everything is about the profits. And if you don't, if you're not working, I don't know what to say about that, because, people, food needs to be grown and things need to be built and, stuff needs to happen and industry needs to happen. But as long as we, it's hoarding, this is hoarding thing. It's this idea that just a few people can get everything they wanted beyond any measure, and then everybody else just has to suffer.
Like you said, it's creating scarcity, creating fear of not having enough when there's plenty. We're the richest country, right? Like,
well, that's just it. The truth is there is enough to go around. I mean, that's how much the wealthiest people in the world hoard, that there is actually, like, it's numbers I can't even comprehend really, because they're huge. But it's like there's so much there. And whether we're talking about like the Saudis and all the oil and all the money that they're sitting on, or the Catholic Church and all the money they're sitting on, there is wealth just sitting in all sorts of, or the Cayman Islands, God only knows. There is wealth sitting all over the place. And there's no real reason why so many people have to suffer so hard in order for a few people to have it so good. But that's the system we bought into. I guess. I don't even know. Like, is it anymore? Like, that's just that, like, all the goalposts have changed. All the conversations are so different than they used to be. In the 90s, for example, and I've been going on about this. In the 90s, I signed off on a notion of I signed off on the notion of being pro-choice.
Yeah.
Now, over the years, they have changed that conversation, the right, and forced us to take up a stance of being pro-abortion. But I don't think that anybody is actually pro-abortion. We're pro the legality of it to keep it safe. That's right. And the autonomy of women is superior to that of her fetus.
They make it out to be a form of birth control. That's not what we're talking about.
Right. Well, that's politics. They take the worst fucking possible instance and they make it out like that's like the 12th, the third trimester, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. But there's another thing that those crazy Christian people really honestly do believe, Vanessa, that people who have abortions or people who perform them are Satanists, that they worship Satan, and abortion clinics are, and the fetuses that are aborted there are sacrifices to the devil. They do believe that, and that is a crazy thing for real, but they do believe that. And it's only the thing they'll tell you in secret. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
And, at first they'll the political, and then they'll go, no, but really it's about the devil. I'm like, oh, okay. But they really do believe that, and that's what's scary about it. But all of that was just
what's scary to me as somebody who works in mental health is when you are having all these people have babies that they don't want or they can't afford. These children are going to grow up to be criminals, bank robbers, depressed, sad, anxious. They're going to have all of these things because nobody wanted them. And
that was an old joke in the 80s about the right wing taking a stance against abortion, but then being in support of the death penalty, right? Yeah. So you force people to have children they can't take care of, the society corrupts, and then they go out and they kill somebody, they become criminals, they kill somebody, and then you'll execute them.
Yeah.
But this is also within a conservative mentality, and the Scientologists do this in spades, of the otherizing. So the criminal is not a real person. The criminal is an other. It's a different thing from us. And it's only when you actually I went to high school with gangbangers, and I, so that's not true. They are just people. Even the most harsh motherfuckers I've known some real serious motherfuckers. They're just people, and they're damaged, and they're broken, and they're scared, and they're full of anxiety. And this is the only way they know how to express their anxiety is through things that to us on the outside looks like rage, but it's really fear. It's really fear that they're expressing, in my opinion. But either way, they otherize. They say, oh no, the criminal isn't a real person, so we don't have to care that much. The immigrant isn't a real person. The refugee isn't a real person. The Muslim isn't a real person. The African Americans, and all of it. And that's where it goes back to literally African Americans were literally told they were 3/5 a person. Literally. That's not an ambiguous, that's not treated that way. It's in the paperwork. It's right. It's policy. It's policy. You know what I mean? Or what? Homosexuals also are not real people. I've been watching a lot of that recently too, about stuff, trying to make the point of how far we have come in terms of a lot of these struggles.
Yeah.
But they were talking about homosexuality in the 30s before they really had a word for it. There wasn't necessarily a designation of a homosexual to the Christian or to the norm. Gay men were just regular men, straight men who just were so indulgent sexually that they would reduce themselves to have sex with each other. Some, you know what I mean? They weren't, there was no such thing as a gay person. There was just people who sinned. And that was just a sin that those people were participating in. Right.
Did you see the preview for the new Abraham Lincoln biopic?
No.
Oh my God. It looks so good because he was totally gay and he had a male lover who lived in the house with him and everything.
I love it. Abraham Lincoln is very, very popular. Roosevelt's very popular. I think Andrew Jackson was a fag. That with the hair and the cape and the sword, he is fierce. That bitch is fierce. Look at Andrew Jackson. I'm not kidding. Especially when I went to the Capitol and they have the statues of all the presidents. His statue is RuPaul Drag Race ready.
Oh,
I'm not kidding. Andrew Jackson. And he was one of the most vicious presidents. He was kind of famous for being a real wicked motherfucker, whipped people and shit.
Here's a bitch.
He was a total bitch, diva bitch, fierce, claws and everything out. Are you kidding me? Yeah. That's funny. Lincoln, they've talked about that a lot. And really, honestly, anytime in history we would go, hey, there was a man with a little sensitivity. He must have been gay. Do you know what I mean? But men so often historically have no sensitivity. And again, but even then, that wouldn't have necessarily, it would have meant that to the people who actually were living those lives. But to anyone who knew that, it wasn't oh, he was a gay man. He was just
exactly.
There was whatever. There was just they probably played it off like it was because Eleanor Roosevelt supposedly had a girlfriend that lived with them in the White House too.
Oh wow.
And there was another one I forget, but I think Ed Koch was gay. Pretty sure we think Ed Koch was gay. He was the mayor of New York in the 80s. And Harvey Milk.
No, people are in super denial about their
Well,
great
because
president.
again, it's this whole like the way that the politics are. Everybody's talking about like it isn't what it is. Everybody who thinks they don't like a thing, they don't actually know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
They've been told some bullshit story by somebody who's not
Yeah.
really actually trying to tell them the truth. So every
Yeah.
time I've ever, especially bigotry like this, anytime you ever talk to it, you're like, well, what is that? Why do you think that? Where'd that come from? What did you see? Oh, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I just heard somewhere. No, everybody
Yeah.
knows. Everybody knows. Everybody doesn't know.
Who taught you that?
Right. I say that to people all the time. Who taught you that? Where'd you hear that? Who told you that? Somebody else told you that. That's not. And you can tell when somebody's just reciting something and when somebody's actually like thinking for themselves, you know, when they're just repeating something they heard somewhere over and over again. It's just very, you know, they have no details to what it's all about. So like, yeah, so people want to be blind to gay people. That's not James Baldwin. James Baldwin is an author, and my brother Jim, he likes, you know, he talks about James Baldwin in a very particular context as an African-American icon. I think of James Baldwin as a completely different creature. To me, he's a queer icon. He wrote Giovanni's Room. That's the book I read. I didn't read the book he read. He wrote the book that was politically charged about I don't even know which book he's talking about. I read Giovanni's Room. So like, but they don't like that. Yeah. They don't like that James Baldwin was gay. And even in the documentary about him, they kind of brushed past it like it didn't matter. Like he didn't write one of the most important books in the queer culture, literature, you know, lexicon. Yeah. The book that for the story, the first time any queer people probably ever saw a story about queer people living a normal life where they were just living together as a couple. There was stuff, but like they weren't being persecuted. They weren't being chased down by a mob and they weren't dying of AIDS. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, yeah. And this is before AIDS even was, but they weren't, you know, it was always the tragic. That's all we ever got. Queer people in cinema, because of the Hays Code for years, were either they had to be tragic, they had to pay for their sins, that's Christianity, or villains. The only time a queer character could get away with surviving is if he was a villain or he or she was a villain. And that then feeds the narrative, that feeds the conscious concept. Everybody, people who think they don't like queers because the queers in those movies were catty or talking in code, talking over your head, making jokes you didn't understand, or being villainous. The same with lost my train of thought again. Oh look, I know you got a thumbs up. A random thought. I still don't know how they do it. Even like, here's something I think is really funny. Even the way that like boomers, the way that early television has very literally affected the way that they believe the world really was. Like the aliens in Galaxy Quest, they think those are historical documents. And I've gotten into real arguments with people who think they remember the Wild West or the 1950s suburban home because they're remembering TV shows they watch when they were children. And they cannot conceive that they're thinking they're seeing that wrong. The big one was when Denzel Washington made the remake of the Seventh Samurai, which was remade into a Western a long time ago, and then they remade it again with Denzel Washington. And I got in that argument a few times about whether or not there were black people in the Old West. And of course there were plenty of black people in the Old West. That's one of the places where slaves would run away to, is the Old West. But because in the old TV shows, there were no black people in the old TV shows. They were scared. Oh my God, it was amazing if you saw actual Latin American person or a brown person on those shows, never mind a black person. But that's just because that was the time of the place where the people were making it. Had nothing to do with the history that they were displaying. But people really think that. They really think that the Wild West was homogenized and good guys wear white hats and bad guys wear black hats. And it's just not the way it was. People don't know this. And
in this little town that used to be all old Western sets.
My mother lived in one of those towns in
really?
Lone Pine.
Oh yeah.
She lived in a place called Lone Pine, and they had a big old Western film festival every year because it was one of those places where they shot a lot of the old Westerns.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. Like looking at all the movie stars on the wall who have signed off on whatever, they're all white. I mean, there was no ethnicity going on.
No, they didn't even I don't even think it wasn't even considered. It's a funny thing, movies too, because in the beginning they were considered kind of low art. and it wasn't a big business. And it was and it was a lot of women. There were a lot of women that worked in movies in the beginning. And it wasn't until sound came in and the fat white guys came in and took over and made it, oh, there's money in this now. So they took over and changed it.
As they do.
But yeah, they just, it's, I don't know. Was it intentional? Probably, yeah. But I don't know. But they,
yeah,
that's what happened. And people still believe it. People still believe it. People still think that Latin people don't belong in the Southwest, even though that's where they're fucking from. And
but it really
or Donna Reed, or also this MAGA people, these MAGA people talking about making America great again. Their reference point is this post-war generation that really did have it good in a way because there was a lot of surplus, but it's not Donna Reed. It's not, the TV shows were not telling the truth, but that's where they get the idea about what that was or why they think that was so good, because on the TV it all looks so nice and pretty and nobody was mad at each other.
They're in their head, life was the Wonder Years.
Yeah. In their head, right? And this sort of like ass backwards recollection of something that never really happened, and they want to go back to a time that didn't really exist, and then they forget, of course, when you say, "Oh, when was America great?" At this time, except for the slavery. Oh, well, except for that.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It was not great. Even if it was great for some people, it wasn't great for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of people who were not living in that life, who were hiding in that life, or just barely surviving in that life.
Yeah, it was good for.
And that's something they never seem to understand. It's like, it's just not the same for everybody. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I think we have a problem with this in the liberal conversations where they think we're saying everybody has to be queer. And I think the idea is to say that people are different. Some people are this way and some people are that way. And that neither thing is necessarily the right or wrong way. It's just different ways of being. But nobody's really having that conversation. Longtime fan. Glad to see you are doing well. Cheers from Ukraine. Yay. Spasiba. I know.
I'm really bad at reminding people, but we have to ask for people to come and leave a comment on our videos because it helps the algorithm, and also hit that like button.
Yeah, hit like and subscribe. And
hit like, hit subscribe. I thought this is an interesting comment. Thank God I'm a bipolar schizophrenic nut because Scientology wouldn't take me.
If you hadn't been a bipolar schizophrenic, they would have made you one.
Yeah, totally.
That's the end phenomenon.
Yeah, no, they're so bizarre with their picky choosiness about who gets to be a Scientologist too. I mean,
I remember as a young person, it's such a weird thing to say now, but I felt like I had to like defend myself as a Scientologist because I didn't join the staff and I was not on lines very often, and I didn't go clear. And so like when I was younger, I was like, no, I felt more of a Scientologist than a lot of people, but now I don't know. Now it's like a weird thing to argue because I don't know, because again, everybody, the concentration so much is on the Sea Org and the sort of labor camp aspect of that.
There we are. I can hear you again. You just cut out for a second.
Okay. My relationship with the church is different is all.
Yeah.
And now I understand there was this whole like pecking order in staff and Sea Org and all that. I didn't really even know that. But that's the crazy making of it though, like people who were at least inside the machine had some insights at why and how the machine was working. I was just effect of the machine.
Yeah.
You write that down. Effect of the machine.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on that I didn't realize was going on behind the scenes as well. My sound is better. Is it better than?
Yes, your sound is better than it was before because I couldn't really hear you as well before. Remember, I kept saying, and I keep leaning into the mic every time I can't. I'm leaning into the mic like that's gonna help.
Well, that's not good. I hope it hasn't been bad this whole time. Maybe my mic wasn't working or something.
Yeah, your sound is better. Okay.
I have this
Ukraine. I wanted to say to Ivan, I want to make I don't know if Ivan's I lived with a Russian speaking Ukrainian from Kiev for 3 years.
Oh wow.
And I learned two phrases in Russian. Iri the nakwi and suka bliat. Now, the joke is to pretend I don't know what those sentences mean and go, I think those are terms of endearment, right? But no, they're son of a bitch and you stupid bitch. They're either that, shut the fuck up and you son of a bitch is what they mean.
They sound beautiful though.
Loosely translated. He did an akwi, which means shut the fuck up. He said that a lot. And then the suka blat. But suka, you hear people say that a lot. Suka's kind of a catch-all, kind of swear word. You hear that in French too. You hear that in other languages too.
Suka?
Suka, bliat means like, yeah, that's a word you also, I don't know if it's Russian or what, but I've heard, I guess it's Russian. I think it is Russian, but I've heard other people say it. I've heard French people say it too. So I don't know. But anyway, I don't know if Ivan thought that was funny or not, but that was for him.
Are you gonna treat us to a song today?
Oh no. Yeah. I hate this. No, I don't.
I hate this. No, I don't.
Well, you know what sucks is I don't really have like the proper audio here. Like the guitar never comes through. You can't really hear it when I do this. I'm gonna try again. I'm just gonna put this mic as close to the guitar as I can.
It's a nice little treat.
I have a little table here.
Yeah, last time it sounded great. I can't hear you at all right now.
How about now?
Sing. Oh yeah, that's good.
All right, I'm gonna unplug this earpiece.
Okay.
All right. It's falling already. All right. But can you hear that?
Yeah.
They say that hell is empty. The devil lives right here. They pay to sell you plenty of everything you feel. Lonely road, broken molds, and diamonds by trial. Come and get what you got, whether you want it or not. Want it or not. If seeing is believing, believing is the truth. Do you trust that what you're seeing? Even believe in you. Around the world like any girl just dying to try. Come on, get what you got, whether you want it or not. Whether you want it or not. Around the world like any girl just dying to try. Come and get what you got, whether you want it or not. Whether you want it or not. Come on now. Whether you want it or not. Whether you want it or not. Yay.
Yay. That was lovely.
There's a bridge. There's a bridge on that song. I kind of copped out. I should have done it, but I didn't do it. I like, I don't know. That's a little ditty. That's what we call a little ditty.
Sounded great. It's a nice little ditty.
We need to get, I don't know. Getting him served with TR0.
TRO. Yeah, he said, any thoughts on Solomon's court victory serving Mr. Z with a TRO? Right. I had a hard time getting him served myself. tried for a long time, and then the process server said that they did. It's this guy Danny who is just a total troll, and
just a regular person or a Scientology person.
He like did one course at CC back in the day, but he came on to the SPTV space because Aaron had him on his channel. And then now all he does is make fun of us. Like anybody who's creating, he just makes videos. Like he may as well be Osa. Like he's that bad. So yeah,
and he's making fun of what? Because we're fucked up. We're damaged fucking people, dude. Fuck off.
Yeah,
if
bro.
If you're so privileged, you think you can make fun of us? Go fuck yourself. You're an asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn it!
Yeah,
don't make fun of my friends.
It's wild. This fucking guy, man, and he has a lot of people on his channel now, and I'm like, dude, how are you guys?
Well, not for nothing, but antagonism sells. In America, people love
totally.
Every once in a while, I'll catch one of these TikTok things, and it's so often just somebody just giving somebody the boot, dropping some like on people. Just I'm gonna tell you how it is. Like, all right. It's so
totally
it's so antagonistic.
Yeah,
but you know what are you gonna do? This is America. This is America.
Yeah. This is America.
And I don't know. I don't have a lot of hope, but it'll be nice to see what happens. It'll be interesting. If I don't know. I think I put too much stake in the whole political thing. But this is and again, it's like I feel like when I was a kid in the 80s and people used to go downtown with their cardboard signs insisting that the end was nigh and the world was coming to an end. And it was it was all over the place back then. And now it's just really feels like it, Benji Netanyahu, the president of Israel, he's here right now. He's in New York.
Oh.
He's speaking to the United Nations, I think, or maybe already did. I'm pretty sure it's today though.
Oh, wow.
And he really seems to want to escalate the situation in the Middle East, and I'm not really sure, but there's a lot of back and forth, right? There's very different opinions about what we should do there. But see, again, this is the evangelical Christians. You know that evangelical Christians take a sort of pilgrimage to the Middle East, not in honor of Jews, but because they want to see where Armageddon's going to happen. There is an actual touristy kind of back and forth. They want to go see where Armageddon's going to happen, and they like Israel because that's where the rapture is going to happen. That's where Jesus is going to return. You see.
Wow.
So I'm really pissed about the Christian thing because
it's okay. It deserves to be pissed
because it is, again, it's this coercive religious sort of thing, and it's as much as I can be mad at Scientology for coercing the fuck out of you and me, but these people are, of course, in the whole country. This is what that is. That's what they're doing. And Project 2025 is a perfect example. They want to go back to the 14th fucking century. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. I saw, though, even Trump is trying to distance himself from that because
he knows it looks bad.
It was received poorly. So he just now is trying to distance himself.
And his VP pick turns out he's not even really a hick. He's not really even a hillbilly. JD Vance, the guy, and he wrote a book about being a hillbilly, and it turns out he's not really a hillbilly. So he's image problems all over the place.
So he is Trump, basically.
He's a mini Trump. He's totally a mini Trump, and that's the idea. But luckily, the thing that makes Trump unique is that he has been so buffered by money all his life. He's never had to grow or learn or any of that. It's never it's never been part of his thing because he doesn't have to, right?
Yeah.
And so, but for most people, that's not true. JD Vance did not grow up rich and privileged. So he's going to have a different way and he's not going to be as much of a whatever juggernaut that, nobody will be probably.
I mean, I'm surprised that anybody wants to be his VP after the last time they were chanting, "Kill Pence."
They don't believe it.
Pence.
No, this is the danger of the propaganda that they anything that's negative, anything that's anti, anything that isn't following the narrative, they just say is a lie. Everything. Yeah. So Mike Pence won't even say that's fucked up. He will say he can't support somebody who puts himself above the Constitution. That's as close as Mike Pence has said of actually saying anything about Donald Trump or bad about Donald Trump.
Good point.
So he doesn't even want to acknowledge actually that he he could have died.
Totally.
And there are congressmen, there's videos of these guys like running for their fucking lives down the hallways, and they still want to deny that happened.
Yeah, it's nuts.
And I don't know, like, again, like how much of that is self-deluding and how much of that is politics as usual and how much of that is what they believe. I don't know. Like, they seem to believe a lot of this stuff.
I think they really do believe it. That's the scary part.
And there's a famous quote about it's harder to convince a man that he's been fooled. It's easier to fool a man than convince him he's been fooled. And that's the hardest part. Because Americans, if they have nothing else, they have fucking ego coming out of their eyeballs. And God knows none of these people want to know that they were duped. Even if he would like free their grandmother from hostage or something, they would rather, no, I was never wrong. I never made a mistake. Never, no. No, that's the kind of person we're talking about. And so they just into a fucking ditch.
Yeah.
Into a fucking ditch with you, motherfucker. Do you remember the ditch? Wait, say what? No,
I say it's wild. It's just wild.
I was just thinking about the ditch at CC, where they work. You know where the pavilion is, and there's the kind of that stand with the waterfall. Like all of that used to just be a big ditch in the ground where we used to play as kids.
Oh wow!
Before they built the pavilion,
the waterfall was beautiful.
The waterfall wasn't there. It was just a ditch, literally.
That was a very nice place. I thought, see, this is why I like nice things, because I
CC with the CC. You say that a lot, but like, and I suppose it's different at Flag. I know that Flag is about, it's about like, image, the church and Ron L. Ron Hubbard were very, very PR conscious. Public relations is paramount. But like I said about the birthing at the complex, that they didn't put in new windows because public don't go there. They don't care about that. But LA Day on the other end of the block is very, very appealing. Looks very inviting, very sweet looking. So
thank you, Miss Chicago.
What'd Chicago say?
She said, "I'm very happy Vanessa's back. She's real, not fake."
He says, "I nailed the pronunciation." I'm sorry.
Nailed the what pronunciation is it?
The Ukrainian.
EP?
The Ukrainian. So
there you go.
Oh, he says he has my EP. Yes. I'm trying to put some more music. I mean, I have lots of songs. It's just a matter of getting them recorded and put out there. Sorry, Miss Chicago was saying, I live in South 20. You're a hillbilly, she says, because So like, there is a desert, Appalachian Mountains and all that. That's a real, that's a real cultural identity. It's not just, we say hillbilly, but it means something to those people. It means something to them. And I think he's a poser, I guess. I don't really know because I'm neither a hillbilly nor a poser, so I don't know. But I think J.D. Vance might have already been called out as being a poser. I got to see that movie though. Fucking Glenn Close is in it. So like,
what movie?
They made a movie out of his book with Glenn Close.
Oh
yeah. No, right? This is the vice presidency of the United States, and this is a guy who's famous for having written a book about being a hillbilly, which is in question whether or not he really was. But they made a movie with Glenn Close. God only knows. She was just pissed about losing the Academy Award like 3 times in a row. She's been one of the most shut out actresses. She's been nominated for Best Actress a bunch of times and she never won.
Oh yeah.
And recently she played a true story about a woman posing as a man to be a butler in like 19th century England. She was nominated for that. It was an incredible performance. She should have won. She didn't. I don't remember who did. And then a few years later, she did a movie with Jonathan Pryce where he plays a writer who has who's won the Pulitzer. And the big rift between them is that she's been secretly writing his work the whole time.
Oh.
And she has to deal with being the wife, being all nice about it because she can't blow the cover because then they don't get the Pulitzer or whatever. Anyway, it's a wicked little movie. She was nominated for that and she's never won. So
poor Glenn Close.
because middle-aged white men are still afraid of her because of Fatal Attraction.
That's hilarious.
That's what she was most famous
for. There was Witness had brought up this one. The latest ruling for the Valeska case came out of 11th Circuit, upheld Sea Org arbitration for Church of Scientology. Such bullshit, man. The fact that they're forcing people into these fake arbitrations, it's such a clown show.
Cannot wrap my head around the concept here is we're going to allow your abusers, your captors to decide.
I know.
What is that? What is that even? How do they, and what is the compare? Is this true of like the Catholic Church? If a priest wants to leave the Catholic Church and they don't want him to leave, can you do that? Is there some parallel situation they're basing this on?
It's these contracts. Even though, they shouldn't be enforced, but because they signed an arbitration clause under duress, nonetheless, but they just don't care. It's so nasty.
I signed one of those stupid contracts. They could come after my ass, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they could come after all of ours, but I signed mine when I was like 5.
Yeah, exactly. I was 11.
Yeah,
I don't think you're really supposed to coerce children into signing lifetime contracts.
Yeah.
Never mind multi-lifetime contracts. I think that sounds insane to me. Right. Yeah. I think that sounds insane to me, but what do I know? I'm a crazy person. I was born in a cult. What the fuck do I know? Right? That's the fucking joke of it. Like, shit. You think you know what rationality is. Common sense, when people use that phrase, I just roll my eyes every time, because what's common for you is not common for everybody. People just, that's another one. People just decide that means whatever they want it to mean. Common sense is what I say. Well,
yeah.
You're not so common, motherfucker.
You're not so common, motherfucker.
You ain't so common. Brainwash. I got these little notes here, but they're not really notes. I feel like I should. I wanted to correct some things, but
we need backgrounds. SP declare voids the contract. He read it out loud on one of his last slides. That's interesting. I wonder if we have SP declares. I've never.
I don't know. One. I have no idea. I would love one. I would frame it, put it on the wall.
Tori Magoo has one. She shows it every YouTube. She's like, "Here's my laminated goldenrod."
Goldenrod, your goldenrod, goldenrod, goldenrod your ass.
Yeah, that's what they like to do.
I certainly was not. I was non. People are writing non-turborder. There was the non-turborder. That's what I used to get all the time, which is the threat to be declared.
Yeah, it is. That was. You must have been bad.
Oh, I was telling this story to Renee. Renee and I were talking about this because you know what I got the non-turbo almost got declared over was stealing M&Ms from a vending machine.
Oh, wow.
There was a guy called Sandman, and he had vending machines in the Shangri-La, and I stole some M&Ms from his vending machine. And he caught me and he wanted me declared. But then at some point, his daughter was dating a guy that I knew, a friend of mine called Jean Michel. Mm-hmm. And I was in love with him in that classic teenage queer falls in love with your best friend kind of way.
Yeah.
Some people get really mad at you for that. Anyway, so I wrote him this letter. I wrote Jean Michel this letter about, that coming out to him. And Christine, his girlfriend, Dennis's daughter, she took that letter and gave it to Dennis, and he started faxing it to the orgs, trying to get me in trouble.
No. Oh,
and Renee Talbot, God bless her, she called me and was like, "They got your thing, and I don't know what they're doing." But she couldn't stop.
Oh my God.
But I went over to their house and I took my letter back. I don't know who all they sent it to, but
shit,
he wanted me dead so bad. I think he thought I was the one corrupting his daughter because she was wilding. She was bugging out. She was a teenager who'd been just like the rest of us, taught to be a robot, and then one day was like, stop being a robot for a little while, and he freaked out. And he wanted to blame me, and he probably could have blamed Jean Michel. He was a corruptive force on everybody around him. But really, Dennis, it was your fault. The reason his
that's
daughter
fucked up. That's really fucked up. I'm sorry that happened because that's like really dark.
That guy wanted me dead so bad. And I remember being in ethics at CC, and I can hear him in the other room. Somebody's getting declared over this. He's freaking out about it. And I'm like, I don't think that's what it's supposed to be. Like, again, like to me, being declared a suppressive person, that's a big deal. That's not just, somebody was mean to me one day, or, you know, it's not supposed to be just anybody who doesn't love the church. It's supposed to be people who are actively trying to hurt people. Or like the church in general, because to them, hurting the church is hurting people, but that's beside the point.
When you think of,
but like they were a different kind of person. There was a
you're
even
thinking
deeper
of like Hitler,
right? You're thinking of Pol Pot. You're thinking of Idi Amin. You're thinking of Stalin and Lenin, and the crazy dictators of the world. You're not thinking, just some kid who's trying to eat his feelings, so he steals M&Ms from a vending machine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was just some fat kid just trying to I can't deal with anything. Just give me some chocolate.
You
Food is not love.
You had the prettiest hair. Long.
I did. I had the best hair. It's, it's not the same. I had the best hair. There's wonderful pictures of the hair. People used to just reach out and touch me. Let me touch my hair. Just like,
your hair is so long and curly.
Well, your mother took very good care of that hair.
Yeah, my mom was a good hairdresser.
Here's a subtle little homophobic thing. I was always trying to get your mother to cut my hair in a more layered way that would kind of like taper at the bottom. And she wouldn't do it. She would always cut it straight across, because to her, that's how men wore their hair long.
Yeah.
The tapered thing is how women wear their hair long.
Yep.
Men wear their hair in that blunt cut. She would never cut it the way I wanted it.
You're like, no, I want a deep V. That is absolutely right.
Exactly. Oh,
she's the kind
funny.
of person who, like, we would see lesbians kissing on the screen, and she would get up and be like, like turn it off because
your mother was probably a secret lesbian, Vanessa.
Yeah.
Usually, the most homophobic people are the ones who are harboring those secret feelings and hating themselves. They're mad at queer people for being out because they themselves can't be out, and that's certainly true of the Christian notion. Is that like the Christian queer conversation is at least come to a point where they're no longer trying to push this idea that you choose to be gay, but you choose to participate in homosexual behaviors. So now what they teach people is you can acknowledge that you're gay, but you're not allowed to be gay. You're not allowed to do anything gay. And so it's that repression and that self-harm, it's self-harm to sit there and go, you're bad, you're wrong, mea culpa, mea culpa. And that then when you see somebody else who's not self-harming, who's not hiding and suppressing and oppressing in the same way, they get very mad at you. They get very mad at you for not hurting yourself the way that they're hurting themselves.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because they're taking all that pain and they expect other people to as well.
And it's such a big fucking heap of bullshit. And it's completely misunderstood even within the Christian conversation. So like, I don't know, like even if there was some rationale to it, like the people that are irrational about it don't even know what that is. They built on some. That's it. Hillbilly Elegy.
That's
worth
the name
a watch.
Of the movie.
Says Peter Anderson. Hello, Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson. So that was the J.D. Vance Hillbilly.
Oh, it's only available on Netflix.
Well, those of us who have Netflix. So what's the potential VP's guy's name?
Pete Buttigieg. Pete Boot Edge Edge. Say Boot Edge Edge.
Booted Edge.
Boot Edge Edge.
Okay.
Say edge twice. Boot Edge Edge.
Boot Edge Edge.
Yeah. Boot Edge Edge. Doesn't matter. He's lovely. You'll get to know him. He's lovely. And he's a vet. He's a vet and he was a governor.
Oh, cool.
And he is at present transportation department. He's head of the transportation department. And he is openly gay and he has a very adorable little husband. They're both kind of small. They're both little guys. And he is smart as fuck. He's just smart as fuck. And he's a nerd. And that's what I mean. Like a nerd and a bitch. I think that would be a fantastic ticket.
Excellent.
And I think once we have a female president, we'll never go back. It's funny.
I can't believe we haven't had one. I mean, we're just what the hell?
It's weird. The misogyny.
It's
and this is the Christianness. This is the puritanical thing that kind of like is the problem with all of America in a lot of ways. the Puritans they never really went away. And they don't want women to be in charge of anything. They don't want women to speak.
Yeah.
They think women are just supposed to be beasts of burden to do the bidding of their husbands or fathers.
Mm-hmm.
I relish the thought.
That's so funny. Hot dog, I got alive. I relish ketchup with mustard. Oh, yay!
oh Lord, let the condiments fly.
Let the condiments fly.
The condiment comments. The condiment comments. God damn it. Why this stupid name? But it's a household name now.
Yeah.
All right. I think it's time to go. What time is it?
I think we're approaching the 2-hour mark, so we're gonna say goodbye. But thank you guys all for joining us. This was super fun.
Like and subscribe.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great week.
You too.